Are savings accounts really worth it? In my opinion, no. Lately, savings accounts have started becoming more and more popular. For example, a lot of people is now talking about the new Apple Cards savings account. And that's why I want to see with you in this video what are savings accounts and why are they going to make you lose money over the time. So, savings accounts basically are accounts in which you can put your money and have a return on it, which is normally called the API, or annual percentage yield. And this means that your money in this account will generate money automatically every year with a normal average of about 0.3%, which is really low. However, and it is the part that is getting really popular now, there are high yield savings accounts, like the Apple one we discussed before. And their return is of about 5%. Which is clearly more interesting. But how can banks give you 5% over this money that you just deposited there? And it is because they loan your money to other people in order to have a return from that. For example, if you are going to have a mortgage to buy your new house, the bank is gonna use the money that someone else deposited in their saving account to finance you. And this saving account system is actually really safe and reliable because it is normally insured up to $250,000. And it also is made to be flexible, to be accessible, so that you can take your money whenever you want, whenever you need them. And so in the principles, it seems really straightforward, easy, and it's something that could really help people. However, it is really important to be careful with that because it is something that over the long term, it might make you lose money. Firstly, because the API is actually variable. And so, for example, if a bank is telling you that you're gonna have an API of 3%, it means that when you sign the contract, the API is 3%, yes, but over the time it might change. And so it might get at 1%, at 0%, for example, also. And why that? Because the API is related to the interest rates. And so the higher the interest rates are, the higher the API is gonna be. For example, Apple, that has just announced its own Apple Cards savings account with a yield of 4.5%, can grant this yield just for some time as long as the interest rates are high as they are now. And it will for sure go down in the future. However, this is a tactic that can really attract customers, and it is what all banks are doing right now. And because of that fact that the API can really change at any moment without notice, you might think that putting the money in your Apple savings account gonna earn 4.5% per year, but in the end, in 10 years, you will notice that you just earned 0.5%. And so all this approach on the API is actually really misleading. And secondly, which is really connected to the first point, it is that the API is actually also related to the inflation since it is connected to the high interest rates. However, inflation, which means the increase of price of any type of goods, is always higher than the API given. And this means that, for example, if this year the inflation is of about 6%, the API is of about 4.5%, so 1.5% less than the actual inflation. And this means that all the prices of goods, like groceries, like going to the restaurant, like utilities and everything else, is going up more than how your money is growing. And this means that you're actually losing money. Thirdly, in these accounts, you normally have a limited amount of money that you can put. And this means that you can both have minimum deposits or maximum deposits. And this way you might have offers that are really difficult to access to because you don't have this availability. But on the other side, you might have good offers for which you can't just put a lot of money. So like the earnings are not really relevant. And this removes a lot of the flexibility that it is promised with this type of accounts. Fourthly, normally you can't access this money for a certain amount of time. And why that? This is because, as I said before, banks are lending the money that you deposit in these accounts to other people in order to have a return on it. And if they are sure that you're not gonna ask your money for a certain amount of time, they are sure that they can lend their money without any problems. Because what banks don't want to is that everybody starts withdrawing their money at the same time, as it happened in the Silicon Valley Bank crisis that I explained in this video. And finally, the last reason is that you have better options than saving accounts. This is because, as I showed you before, you are going to lose money over the time because of inflation. And to contrast the inflation, there are better tools, better assets that you can have that will generate you return with a really low risk. For example, ETFs, of which I made a guide here. So overall, I think that savings accounts are really good tools for short-term necessities. For example, if you have to buy a house, if you have to buy a car, or for having an emergency fund. However, too often are publicized as long-term investment tools. But they clearly are not, because as saw before, they're gonna make you lose money over the time. Anyway, you have to be really careful when you use them, because if you just miss a chapter of the contract, you might end up having your money blocked for 10 or more years. And this would block you from withdrawing your money when you need it. So I hope that this video gives you a brief idea of why you have to be really careful and cautious with this savings account, because they can really be dangerous. And so, thanks for watching and see you soon.